That was a brilliant weekend of rugby, I've got to say. And if you're listening to this and you haven't heard our chat with George Ford and the analysis of England's epic win over the All Blacks, we actually released that on Sunday morning, so check that out.
Drop goals are funny things. They're funny things, I think, drop goals, because you go for one and you miss, and it's deemed this negative. England don't know what they're doing. They ran out of ideas. Oh, let's just go for a drop goal, and then. But if you kick it, it's like, oh, this is brilliant. Pollock was absolutely buzzing, mate. He was on one end. I've watched the clips back, and he's there like licking his lips, mate. Have you seen the video of it? He's like licking his lips.
But he's like, right, I'm just going to sit on the bench for 60 minutes, lads.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Good luck, lads.
I've fired them up. They're ready. They're all yours. Cheers, guys. Right, Ben, where shall we start?
Well, I've already had a peek at next week's fixtures, and the one that stands out for me, Coley, given what's happened this weekend, is can Ireland beat the Springboks?
That, Ben, is a good question. Ireland beat Australia 46-19 at the Aviva on Saturday night, and Ireland came out hot and put Australia to the sword. And Ireland looked as convincing as they've been in the past few games, haven't they?
Yeah, Ireland needed that performance, and we said previewing into it actually, Coley. Australia played a lot of Test rugby. They look like they need their season to end. It literally does, because at the moment I felt like Australia were heading in the direction, but the more games they're playing at the moment, the more I'm questioning. Every time they go out and play again, the more I'm questioning, are they actually moving in the right direction? Ireland looked better, definitely. You saw the shapes that we so often see with Ireland, where they hold on to the ball, they try and create one-on-one, tight shapes, and you saw that, and it was a lot more fluid than maybe what we saw against Japan, where they tried to do those shapes and you didn't really see it, and there was a lot of drop ball mishandling, a lot of overrunning things. Bit similar to what we saw in Chicago in New Zealand, but that was as Ireland-esque as we've seen for a while. I was very impressed by some of the attacking kicks that Ireland did. That was clearly a tactic of theirs. I thought Sam Prendergast, particularly kicking from hand, with his attacking kicks, was very, very good. I mean, there was one free kick he got actually, and without any hesitation, whipped out a spiral, and Jorgensen fumbled it actually, which led to a great opportunity for Ireland. But the overall attacking kicks, Gibson Park even whipped one out at one point for Henshaw to score in the left-hand corner. But there's one in particular where Prendergast literally, he's getting hit and still managed to get the kick away at the same time of being hit. So that was pretty skillful from him. I think there's still question marks about his defensive capabilities. Lenny Katau is a good example of that. Now, Lenny Katau has arguably been one of the in-form centres in the world this season, but he just comes route run at Prendergast, and it's very much a soak tackle when you're 2 meters from the line, and it can't be a soak tackle, Coley. So I think given South Africa are playing against Ireland this weekend, Andy Farrell has a decision to make at 10. But one question mark still has to be out with Prendergast, is the defensive part of the game. And the South Africans are coming down there. They've got guys coming down the channel, but they're also smart. It's not like, we're just going to, we're going to run one out runners and we're going to come down your channel and it's going to be glaringly obvious. South Africa have so many subtleties to their game. Tony Brown, a fantastic attack coach. They're smart enough to create opportunities that will give one-on-one to try and target Prendergast, to try and get over the top of him, physically intimidate him, and get speed of ball and momentum in and around his channel.
Reading about the Ireland sort of camp, I think Jack Conan saying how this is going to be a launch pad for Ireland, and actually they sort of didn't expect to play their best in the first couple of rounds of the Autumn Nation Series, but they're hitting their straps now. And I think the game's going to be really good, because I think it's going to be Ireland are, as you say, looking more cohesive. We knew they were going to be probably slightly off because of the Lions haven't really played. A lot of their guys are coming back into sort of, they haven't played much club rugby and stuff like that. So we can understand that. But I say, back at the Aviva, South Africa in town, and I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
Ireland set piece, Coley, of course. Paul O'Connor does the line out and everything like that. But playing against Australia is a very different set piece beast to what's facing you a week later in South Africa. But is there a perfect team to play beforehand, ahead of playing the box, or is it very much play what's in front of you when the box turn up, just be ready for that?
Yeah, good question. I don't know if there is a perfect team, because you said previously how if you play, Australia play similar to Argentina, play similar to Ireland, and New Zealand, and they keep the ball alive, and similar to Scotland, whereas almost South Africa, because they are such an outlier in terms of pure power, scrum, maul, physicality. And yes, they can do everything else. They can move the ball and they're expanding their game. They've got the kicking game. But yeah, I don't think there's many teams can repay for the box. I think Ireland will be probably happy in regards to, so the occasion look better and they're taking momentum into the game against the Springboks. It'd be fascinating to see what team, without going too previewy, but like it'd be fascinating to see what team South Africa pick and whether they sort of go literally, they've sort of not experimented, but they've always sort of adapted and keep you guessing, whether they literally just go, we're going to pick our biggest, meanest team and beat you up, or whether they kind of try and outplay Ireland with a sort of movement of the ball. So it'd be interesting to see, fascinating to see where the team selection comes out. And so the game is going to be a hell of a game, because I think, we've seen how important the final 20 minutes of test matches have been, the final 10 minutes of the Autumn Nation Series, some of those games have been. So again, does it come down to the depth of South Africa that they can roll out compared to Ireland, who I think can compete? I mean, Ireland have beaten them in recent times, but like Ireland can compete maybe 15 on 15, but you go deep into the 23s. Can they do it? I don't know. We'll find out.
I'll tell you what will be pleasing for Ireland fans, though, is seeing Matt Hansen come back in. You can see the energy he gives to the team, his huge personality, the crowd respond to him very well. Of course, scoring a hat-trick, almost everything he touched came off last night. And super impressed to see him back involved. I think that it does add an extra dimension to Ireland, which they've been lacking, because wingers sort of pop up and are an extra distributor within Ireland's system. And Mac Hansen is very comfortable doing that role. James Lowe does it as well, but Mac Hansen in particular can do that. So I think him coming back in is a real positive for Ireland fans. I think he will make a difference for sure.
I think he definitely will. I think he also energises like the Aviva in a strange way. You don't want to put it on sort of certain players, but so the reception he got after he scored, after every try he scored, it was massive. And I think when you have a player like that in your team that can energise the home crowd, it can only help your side going against the best teams in the world.
He's also wearing odd boots, which I couldn't work out whether that was actually meant to be because they're branded and they're meant to be odd, or he just feels like wearing odd boots because he definitely had one black boot and one white boot.
Maybe he just forgot his boot.
Maybe he didn't know what was the best, whether he should wear studs or moldies. So he thought, right, I'll just wear them in the warm-up and feel which one, and then just thought, you know what, it just feels great.
He might have, because he's playing on the wing, he might have had his outside boot with studs so he could step off it and back in field. We'll find out.
And whilst we're on the subject of Ireland, we, of course, are going on a live tour in 2026, and one of the cities we are touring is Dublin, and we cannot wait to get out there. That is on the 25th of April, and tickets are available now. Simply click on the episode description, and we look forward to seeing you there.
And Ben, we've talked about Ireland, and obviously their opposition this weekend is going to be South Africa. South Africa beat Italy 32 points to 14. And, we saw Rassie, we talked about him being a game changer and how he's evolving the game. Once again, he did it this weekend.
He did. Italy toured South Africa in the summer. We saw the plans that he did there with the kickoffs and going straight to scrum, the maul from multi-phase. And this week he thought, do you know what? We played so well with 14 men against France. I just want to carry on seeing how much depth we have and how much I can test this team. So he decided that he told Mossad, look, get a red card and we'll go 14 again because I'm going to change the game and I want to make it as difficult as possible to learn a bit more about my team. Very, very clever coach. No, in all seriousness, I think when you look at what they did against France, they changed the team quite a bit, South Africa. They went down to 14 men once again. It's very difficult at the moment that, we're about the love of rugby. I don't want to harp on it about, decisions and everything like that. But when you think of the Wales-Japan game, that game, look at the game at Cody Taylor at the weekend, there's a lot of cards being given at the moment. I'm sure I've probably missed one because it seems like there's that many at the moment. And I don't know. There needs to be a bit of empathy. Like Garbisi's coming back in. He's being chop-tackled. As he's being chop-tackled, he's sort of dipping. Mossad's there. He's trying to hit him. He has hit him high. But it's difficult. I can't quite... I don't have a solution, and I'm not on one here to sort of use this platform to moan about it or anything like that. But yeah, I can't quite... At the moment, there's just a lot of cards being given out. There's a lot of cards given out. But I think almost the fact there was a red card, it made the game better in a weird way because Italy could be more competitive, and I mean that respectively. But South Africa, for me, they are the team, the best team in the world. They are, and I feel like they are that far ahead of everyone else that actually Italy gave it a proper good crack. And I enjoyed the match. I really enjoyed the game. South Africa obviously showed their class in the end. I mean, Caleb Moody, did you see the goose step? Went on the outside, absolute burners. Louis Liner, he is not slow. Like Louis Liner, he played at Quins, of course, now at Benetton. He is not a slow winger. He can move. and he gets goosed, absolutely left for dead. That man, Grant Williams, popping up on the inside once again. He knows his way to the try line for sure, running that support line like any good 9. And you just moments like that, and you just think, just game breakers, athletes, opportunity, try.
It looked like a great event for Italian rugby as well. You know what I mean? Like I say, because in like probably a year ago, even like the in the summer series, Italy weren't overly competitive, but like again, Capuozzo's try, like Italy move the ball, they keep hold of the ball, and yeah, they're actually again, they're just adding I hope from the Six Nations, I think it's been a great tournament because Italy are going to keep adding, keep getting better. And again, it's just great for rugby. Like this game, South Africa playing in Juventus Stadium, Italy playing around the place. Like, it was a great game.
You're seeing some teams really go after the attacking elements of the game. So Argentina, for instance, against Scotland, the way that they just go multi-phase, hold onto the ball, try and play with speed. Italy's another example of that. Scotland do it in large periods. They still manage the game pretty well. Scotland, although last 20 we'll talk about that. But, they still kick the ball a fair amount. But when they go, they try and play with speed and move the ball and build pressure, ball in hand. And you're just sort of starting to see identities of teams that are willing to go more phases than maybe what we were seeing 2 years ago in World Rugby, or 3 years ago, certainly in World Rugby. It was very much an emphasis on, field position and squeezing teams. But actually, you're seeing a lot more teams really sort of try and build pressure, ball in hand, go through the phases and have that identity. And I think Italy are really going after that. And I applaud them for that, because the easy thing for Italy, maybe let's say, to do, given that they do have some very good players like Menicello, Garbisi, I do rate it as a 10. Capuozzo, we know what a broken field he runner. But the easy thing almost is to rely so much on that territory, kick it, and just wait for that one moment. But actually, they're happy to try and build pressure and put the hands through the ball, build multi-phase. And I like the direction that Italy are going. I think that they're a team that they're heading in the right direction. But they come against a team like South Africa, even with all those changes and a red card. Unfortunately, the gap really is just that big at the moment.
It's a bigger question, but do you reckon teams like that, Italy, play like that because potentially they don't have the ginormous human beings like South Africa that can just sort of barge away of the game? Like we saw, like almost goes back to Japan into like 2015, 2019 of how the speed of ball, and they almost went so far as in like the speed at which they played at, because they were smaller than everyone else. It sort of opened the eyes of actually a lot of teams could go that way. And you look at the teams now, like we said about Ireland, Argentina, Italy, Scotland, like they want to hold on to the ball, they want to play. And I think it's fascinating for the game, isn't it? But I think, is that because, do you reckon they don't have the pure power to play like a South Africa side, so they have to find other ways of playing and it suits the players they've got? Yeah,
I do. I think that they have to have their own identity that suits that calibre of player. And, and I know we're saying you can't play like South Africa in terms of the power and the set piece and everything like that, but also when South Africa want to play, they play. Like they can turn it on as well and go multi-phase. But what they've got is the safety blanket and the safety net of at any point it's not working out what they want to, they can go back to a set piece, go back to an aerial game, create unstructured opportunities, create knock-ons, force into a set piece and squeeze you that. But yeah, I think it's very much like that, Coley. There's a clear identity with some teams that they don't have the physical power to win the gain line, repeatedly. So therefore they need to have more subtleties, more ball movement to create one-on-ones to give themselves a better chance of either forcing penalties out of team or, of course, line breaks, tries and everything like that. Japan, I mean, they played at lightning pace at times against Wales as well.
Len, do you think there's a big five in World Rugby right now?
I do. I think it's, South Africa without doubt are world leading. I think the way that they've sort of done the bomb squad, and I don't think I've ever known a period in World Rugby where having 8 people on the bench has been so important, and almost your biggest selection is who's on your bench and when you're unleashing them. Now, Razzie's been doing this for sort of, it feels like four years or something like that. He's been doing this remarkably well. And it's almost like teams have taken that long to catch up, but not catch up because they didn't value it, not catch up because they didn't understand it. It's just catch up because they didn't have the caliber, they didn't have the depth, they didn't have the same depth that South Africa have. And teams, in my opinion, Coley, still don't have that level of depth. They don't. South Africa, for me, are world leading, and rightly so. So South Africa are very much at the top there, mate. You got France, Ireland, England, New Zealand. I put all those 4 sort of behind them as make up the top 5. But all of those I feel like can beat each other on their day. But I feel like South Africa on their day just beats everyone. But all the others kind of can do that. And the other one, as we've seen today against with Scotland, and we've seen them in the Rugby Championship, is Argentina. They're another team on their day. If they get it right, they're bloody difficult to play against. And then you sort of have then your Scotland's in that category, your Australia, but I feel like, as I said, they're sort of flowing away. And then below that, then you move into your Fijis and your Italys and things like that. But yeah, it does feel like there's very much a top 5, but it feels like the most consistent, best team in the world is South Africa. And I feel like there is a big gap at the moment. And very much like that New Zealand team of 2011, 2015, where they are, when they're on it, they are just that much better than everyone else.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what the listeners have to say and the viewers have to say. So if they want to leave a comment about, do they agree with Ben's Big 5, or is there changes in how you rank the tiers of teams? Let us know. Leave a comment below.
Yeah, just to be clear, I did not do that in order. I had South Africa 1 and I just listed the other 4 to make up the top 5. So yeah, maybe I'll see what the listeners say, and then after that we'll work it out what is the top 5 rather than World Rugby's viewing of that.
Sorry, not only was it full weekend of rugby, but in between the games, Ben, did you watch any horse racing this weekend?
A little bit, Coley, because I don't mind the old horses. And given my history of owning one in the past, but that's for another day. And I've also been very much invested in Champions Full Gallop documentary series, which is on ITV, and you can also watch it on ITVX. And I've been watching that, getting to know the jockeys a bit more, getting behind the scenes, understanding how things work, and I'm really into it. So I'm sort of in about halfway through episode 3 now. It's absolute quality. Really enjoying that. And yeah, Cheltenham Gold Cup was on at the weekend. I didn't win, if you're asking. Panic Attack won. I didn't win. I didn't back it.
Just for the record, you said you were a former horse owner.
Yes.
Did you not know anything before? Are you tempted to go back into horse ownership now you're watching this series, or are you did you wish you'd watched this series before you'd owned a horse, or what?
I think had I watched this documentary before I first was involved with a horse, then no, because I'd have realised I needed a lot better horse than the one I was involved with. For those that are interested, I actually did own a horse, correct? It was called Leg It Lenny. Yes, it was named after myself. It couldn't leg it very fast. It wasn't particularly quick, and it did absolutely crap. But it was great fun, and I had a buzz whilst doing it, and I'm able to see the buzz in everyone's faces from watching the documentary, and it rolls back the years for me. I think, you know what? That was good crack when I did that, and they look like they're having a great time in the documentary. And had I watched this before I'd done that, I wouldn't have brought that horse, no.
I will say the stakes are a little bit higher in Champions Full Gallop than your horse, aren't they?
The stakes are a lot higher, and it's a lot more in depth than I can tell you about it. It's fantastic. So Champions Full Gallop Season 2 is now airing on ITV every Friday at 10:45 p.m, and it's also available to watch on ITVX. Coley, I got a couple of predictions right this weekend, and one of them was that Argentina would beat Scotland. What a game that was. I mean, Scotland in control, but the last 20 minutes, Argentina, wow.
At 53 minutes, Scotland are 21-0 up. They're 5 metres from Argentinian line. They're picking and going to basically score and play. I think Finn Russell throws a long pass out to the edge. It's a bounce pass. It gets intercepted by Isco. They end up Argentina end up going, not the length, but they end up getting tackled about 10 metres short. But then after that, Blair Kinghorn gets yellow carded. And that basically just changed the game. He went from literally 2 metres out from the Argentinian line to then being under their own sticks. Julio Montoya then scores off the prevailing play. Next thing, it's a kick-off. I think Argentina play to an edge, go down, get back into Scotland's half, end up scoring again. And then it was just this, everything just slid away. If you've ever seen a win percentage chart, it must have been 90% Scotland, and literally just slid away in those final 25 minutes. We talk about how important the final 20 minutes of test matches are, but again, I didn't expect that. And Scotland was seen to be in total control. That first half they played so brilliantly. We talk about how Argentina throw the ball around, and Scotland again 2 weeks in the bounce. The first half we was talking about the All Blacks. They almost neutralised and played a really good game. And similar with that first half against Argentina, they didn't seem to give them a sniff in some regards. And then second half, just that final 25 minutes, just again with man in the bin. Fair play to Argentina for digging in. But when they get in that 5 metre line, when they get 5 metres from your line, they are lethal. And I saw today, the sort of 4 tries where they literally got from like picking and going, just staying there, being patient. So like, on a side note, for England next week, it's going to be all about not letting Argentina anywhere near your 22, which is tough because they've got some, like, the guys, Carreras, Isco, like, they've got guys that can run the length of the field and get in your 22. And when they're in there, they're tough to stop. But yeah, no, it was fair play to Argentina for coming back from that.
I want to first just say Argentina are a very, very good team. So the result didn't surprise me in many ways. It didn't, because they've shown in the course of probably the last 2 years, they can beat anyone on their day. They've done great in the Rugby Championship the last few years. They are a very, very good team on their day. But I think from a Scottish point of view, if you're 21-0 up in a test match, you cannot lose that game. You cannot lose that game. So I've got to applaud Argentina, right, for the last 20 minutes, as you mentioned, Coley, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a second. But from a Scottish point of view, at 21-0 up, you have to see that game out. And I think there's enough experience out there. You've got Russell out there, you've got Tuipulotu, Blacking on. I know he gets sin bin, but he comes back on. Like, there is enough experience to know and nous to go, I know how to win this game. And they just couldn't turn the tide. They literally, the momentum in the last 20 from the subs that came on from Argentina, they brought so much intensity and they played with such pace. Like, Scotland couldn't slow up the ball. They couldn't win a collision. They were falling off tackles. Argentina were manipulating the defence with the way that they move it. Carreras was getting out the back of shape. Like, the wingers were having a field day. Carreras on one wing, Isco on the other. And Scotland just couldn't handle it. And as you said, Cole, as soon as Argentina, and the way that they get to the 5 metre line, I love, because they'll go 5, 6, 7 phases and they play with such speed and precision. And then they'll get 5 out. And as you say, then it's just patience. It's big runner. It's pick and go. It's being very, very efficient in that area. But from a Scottish point of view, at 21-0 up, and I know you mentioned, Coley, the bounce pass, they go length, but even after that, you still got to have enough. And I felt like Scotland it felt like they panicked and they were trying to almost absorb it and, oh, it'll be okay, they're just going to have a purple patch. You've got to still go out and win it. You've still got to be aggressive with the way that you play the game, with the way that you handle the defence, the way that you go at breakdowns, the way that you win territory, the way that you maybe go, right, it's like they're having a purple patch, we are actually going to go long and on, pin them into corners and launch from there. And I just felt like, I don't know whether it was a psychological hurdle, I'm not quite sure. I got to compliment Argentina, but I've also got to say, from a Scottish point of view, they got it so right for 55 minutes or whatever it was. And then they just really imploded.
Argentina, like, you can see that they're sort of bubbling away and that they get breaks. We talked about moving the ball to space, and that's what Argentina are so good at doing, and find space. And they've got these guys on the edge that can make meters, and then they're sort of, they play multi-phase and they'll pick off a tip runner, and they've got front rowers running through holes and all that kind of stuff. And they're a very well-drilled side. And I say, but you can see them frustrated in the first half, like Contepone's like punching the wall because things aren't going to hand. But then I say, literally, they had one breakout play with that bounce pass intercept and sort of went the length. The kickoff, I think, they kicked off, they played 3 or 4 phases, penalty advantage, moved to an edge, made more meters. And like, even off, there was a scrum play where they sort of play down, like, they're so dangerous, you know what I mean? And they got guys that can literally carry 40, 50 meters and just swing momentum of test matches. They literally go from defend their own line to being in the opposition half, in the opposition 22 in seconds. I think, they're fair play to them, because there was a point where Scotland had won a couple of scrum penalties, especially when the bench came on, had scrum dominance, and it was Julian basically elected for the scrum. I think it was before maybe the 3rd Argentinian try, and basically, like, they had a penalty advantage, and Julian Montoya said, we'll have the scrum, and I was a bit like, that's risky, but fair play. You're back in the team, back in your, what confidence, like, your captain's basically saying, we're having a scrum, even though we're giving away a couple of scrum penalties so far, we back ourselves to have a platform to score off. Like, fair play to Julian, big call from the captain, but, hence why he's the captain. But I say, what confidence he instills in your team, and, Argentina play out of that. They're 3 minutes from the line, 4 minutes from the goal line, just pick and go, stay so patient in there. And, they bludgeon their way over.
What's frustrating about Scotland is you just see these patches where they're really, really good. Like, and they put some lovely things together. So even the Dempsey try, the lead up to that, and then Finn Russell just, looking out the back. For those who haven't seen it, it's basically Finn Russell's got the ball. Dempsey, the number 8's coming on a nice short ball. and then there's a shape out the back. So there's a player out the back. So it looks like Finn Russell's going to use Dempsey as a decoy and then pull it behind his back to a player on the attack to get on the outside. So everything's looking like he's going to play out the back. Even looks that way. No look pass, play short. Dempsey straight through, has the pace to get there. And you look at that and you think that's brilliant. And you look at how they get to 21-0 up. You look at last week and when they had that sort of 15, 20 minute spell, and you're thinking not many teams could live with them when they play like that. And I think that's the frustrating thing from a Scottish point of view is you see glimpses and you see 10, 15 minute spells where they are red hot, but then they're not sustainable. They don't keep it on teams and then find a way of winning. And I think that's been the big frustrating thing, because if you look at the Scotland season, the calendar year, and I'll tell you, they've only actually beaten Italy, Wales, New Zealand Māori, Samoa and USA.
I can see that being frustrating being a Scotland fan, because you've got this team which is full of talent, full of the way they play. Like when they're on form, they're incredible. Like the attacking prowess they have, the players have, the game breakers, the full pack that works hard, digs in, and it's frustrating to say it's Scotland are the team that's every year you kind of they're at the beginning of the tournament. You're like they're going to win, they're going to win, and they win a big game where they come close, and they just say it's that ability to kick on.
Scotland fans, comment below. Do you agree with ourselves in terms of you see these glimpses and these moments where they're fantastic and then they just can't sustain it? What are your thoughts on Scotland at the moment? Townsend has been under a little bit of pressure. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And of course, Self and Coley are also going to Edinburgh the night before the Calcutta Cup. So you can join us for a live show there. We mentioned earlier about we're going to Dublin. We're also going to Edinburgh for a live show. So we look forward to seeing you there. One final point on Scotland versus Argentina, Coley, is I loved the aerial battle between both teams. So Argentina kick short, don't they, to try and win it back. Scotland do something similar. And the aerial contest that we saw between the wingers it has to be celebrated at the moment. The ability to get in the air and win it clean catches is phenomenal. And I looked at that and I thought, do you know what? England next week with Argentina, that battle and contest in the air is going to be fascinating. And I do think that Argentina will put England under more pressure than we've seen of the other three nations, because of the way they play. They hold on to the ball, they ask questions of you defensively, they create speed of ball, and they're dangerous from a lot of areas. I think England will win, but I do like the fact that actually this last game for England is actually going to be a real good test. I think it's a proper challenge. I think defensively, Argentina could ask some serious questions of England, and I loved what I saw in terms of the aerial battle today, and I suspect we'll see very similar at Allianz Twickenham next week. On to the final game that we're going to talk about, Coley, and that was Wales versus Japan. 24-23. Jared Evans, fair play, minerals to kick it at the end, and he got an amazing... you could sense the entire crowd, like the nerves and everything, and when it went over, like the elation, and fair play, because it wasn't even like the easiest of kicks. I know it's on his side for right foot and everything, but that's not the easiest of kick when there's that much riding on it.
Oh no, I say the pressure of that kick, especially with I think how Wales had played, and obviously there was a sort of certain frustration in the stadium. But no, the relief at the end and the fair play. I think Wales, they stuck at it. They've always been a team that sort of plays for 80, and they battled hard and got the result they wanted. I think as Squidge said, it was potentially the biggest game of the weekend in terms of the World Cup rankings. So there was pressure on it, and I think they came through at the end. I think fair play to Steve Tandy. It's his first win. Again, it's going to be big for the group. I know they won beat Japan in the summer, and then came back and struggled last weekend, and they're winning again today. But I think just having an environment where you are winning, and sometimes it is a close game, and sometimes you do play rubbish, but to be able to get a victory, it just gives you a bit of breathing room, and not as players, you still got to perform, you still got to keep going, but it's so much better coming to camp after a win than it is after a loss.
And it just felt like there was so much more pressure on Wales than Japan going into this. And we previewed it, and we said about the hype around Wales, the importance of the World Cup rankings and pool stages and everything like that. We talked about how Eddie Jones' psyche for the Japanese team will be very much all the pressure on Wales and heap it on them. And I've got to say, Japan played very, very well. I really enjoy a bit like Argentina, as we mentioned, a bit like Scotland in patches. When they play well and they move the ball, they're brilliant to watch. Like, the ball movement, the speed, the breakdown work as well, like you've got to applaud that. You know, the ability to hold on to it and play that quick was fantastic. But, you know, Wales found a way. And I think it's important for Wales. They've got this win. They've had to deal with a lot of pressure going into this. Jared Evans obviously slotting it. And I think that will just settle them. Tandy as well has got a win under his belt. That it's almost like when you look at their fixture list, this was the one game they needed to win and had to win. And they've done it. And yes, it wasn't the perfect performance. Yes, they've won at a kick right at the end, and Japan will be absolutely devastated in losing that manner. But Wales got it done in a game that they just had to win. They absolutely had to win, and they did do it.
They did, and I think, like I say, they continue on the path. You got new coach, and it's always hard, it's always tough. New squad coming together. I think, again, discipline could have bitten them on the arse. And I think, you know, when you're a team like that, when you're we've been in teams that, you know, you are scrabbling to win games, and again, it's part of it is you try and extra hard, try and make a difference with that kind of stuff, and it's almost like not doing stuff, as in not giving away penalties, is what helps win you those games. And I think, you know, say when you're Wales, there's obviously bits to work on, but again, you win a game, it's so important for the psyche, the group, the squad, because wins are tough. In international rugby, wins are tough to come by, and whoever you beat, again, they are, you know, you celebrate as a squad, you enjoy it, and then you try and get better and move on to the next game.
And you just suddenly get a bit of momentum. You look at England 12 months ago and the autumn that they had. They played Japan in the last game of the autumn and they won convincingly. Bit of a stuttery start to the Six Nations, and then they got some real momentum on the back of it. Then Argentina, and all of a sudden England are 10 on the bounce. I'm not saying Wales are going to do that, but when I think about Wales, it's important to get that win. They've got to win under Tandy. I look at Scotland, for instance. Again, you know, New Zealand last week was, I said it before, but that was just such a big opportunity for Scotland. It was huge. And we saw England put New Zealand away, because at the moment, New Zealand are a very beatable team. They really are. And then Scotland don't manage to beat Argentina again today. And it's like they need that win to kick on, to almost start a run of wins, the psychological barrier, momentum, and everything like that. So I see a couple of the Northern Hemisphere struggling a little bit, but they just need a scalp. And Wales have got the first win. They're not going to win the next two. Let's be honest. They're not going to beat New Zealand, and they're not going to beat South Africa.
I was going to say, you talk about 10 on the bounce when the next game's on New Zealand, South Africa.
No, they're not going to do that.
It's quite a challenge. But in terms of the Autumn Nation Series, I think like Wales win this game, yes, it was important. It's probably the one winnable game that you target and you go after, and they've done that. And again, it's as much as the optics of, like, you know, when they go to Japan, it's like, oh, they've lost so many games in a row. Like, similar with, like, this is their first game in 10, I think they've won at home. But it's all those bits where, no, you can't get nibbled at because you've actually won a game. And again, as a player in that squad, you've won. And, you know, you're not expected to beat New Zealand. You're not expected to beat South Africa. So you can go out there and throw everything on it. And no matter what happens, like, it's a free shot in some regards. And you learn about yourselves, learn about your squad, and you continue that path of development and moving forward.
Well, Tandy will know more about his individuals in the back of playing New Zealand, South Africa. And for him coming in as the Wales coach, inheriting a team that's been really sort of been tough, results, performance, stuff like that, his win against Japan, second game in, it almost feels like a clean slate under his tenure and everything like that. So, look, Wales are up and away. They've got a win under Tandy. That's great. Scotland, they're just like, at the moment, there's some great bits and then there's some really poor bits. And we saw the best of Scotland today, and we also saw the worst of Scotland today. And it's incredibly frustrating, I'm sure, as fans. Well, there we go. That is our roundup of the weekend's fixtures. And of course, as I mentioned, England's review has already been come out. So that's with George Ford exclusive. So if you haven't seen that yet or listened to it, that is available right now. And don't forget to buy tickets, especially if you're in Cardiff, Dublin, or Edinburgh. We'll see you at the live shows.
For the love of rugby.